Even as President Donald Trump awaits a trial in the Senate, his personal attorney Rudy Giuliani is moving full speed ahead with new allegations against former Vice President Joe Biden and the former ambassador to Ukraine, Marie Yovanovitch, the very individuals targeted by Trump in events that triggered his impeachment. In recent weeks, Giuliani, himself under federal investigation for his Ukraine activities, has cryptically teased what he calls new proof buttressing charges about Biden and purported corruption during the Obama administration, attempting to flip the script by contending that Democrats, not the president, are the ones guilty of obstruction and collusion with a foreign power to influence elections. The allegations point to 4 Ukrainian would-be whistleblowers he says Yovanovitch silenced through visa denials, and include 2 multi-billion-dollar schemes he says he's uncovered and that Yovanovitch and the Obama administration conspired to cover up. In tweets and interviews, the former New York City mayor has been intentionally vague about both the allegations and his newfound proof, while vowing to eventually reveal it to the Department of Justice and a trio of senators. All in good time, Giuliani told NBC News via text message when asked when he'd produce the evidence. But documents obtained by NBC News, interviews with people familiar with Giuliani's activities and a review of his public comments show he's relying almost entirely on assertions by Ukrainians whose credibility is questionable at best. In some cases, the allegations have already been thoroughly debunked. Giuliani's allegations have found a receptive audience in Trump, who says Giuliani will make a report to Attorney General William Barr about his good information. In the Senate, Judiciary Committee Chairman Lindsey Graham and 2 other Republican chairmen are seeking interviews with Ukrainians and Americans with purported knowledge about what Giuliani alleges. That has created the prospect that even as the Senate holds a trial on whether to remove Trump from office, Senate Republicans could counter-program the trial by carrying out their own publicized probe into Biden and his son Hunter and alleged Ukrainian meddling in 2016. Here's a look at what's known and unknown about Giuliani's new allegations. $5.3 billion in squandered U.S. cash. Giuliani's first allegation centers on $5.3 billion in U.S. taxpayer dollars he says were mishandled and even laundered during the Obama administration on Biden's and Yovanovitch's watch. On Twitter, Giuliani cited documents from Ukrainian auditors he says show much of the $5.3 billion in U.S. aid was misused and given to the embassy's favored NGOs, non-governmental organizations. He says the U.S. Embassy directed the police not to investigate. The United States has never given $5.3 billion to Ukraine. Even Israel, the largest recipient of U.S. assistance, has never received more than $3.8 billion in a given year. A 2017 report from Ukraine's Accounts Chamber, the parliamentary auditing agency, and reviewed by NBC News does mention $5.3 billion in U.S.-funded, international technical projects during the last full year of the Obama administration, but not all the money was from the United States. Although the report concludes the funding wasn't well directed toward Ukraine's top economic priorities, there's no suggestion of intentional misconduct and no reference to laundering. Giuliani hasn't explained his claim that the U.S. urged Ukraine's police not to investigate. But his reference in the same tweet to favored NGOs offers a window into his emerging claim. For months, Giuliani has alleged that an anti-corruption nonprofit in Ukraine called Antac colluded with the Democratic Party to dig up dirt on former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort. Antac received funding both from the U.S. and from a philanthropy founded by billionaire George Soros, a fact Giuliani's associates have used to fuel conspiracy theories. Giuliani worked closely with John Solomon, a former columnist for The Hill newspaper, on articles about alleged Ukrainian election meddling, including a column in March that said the U.S. Embassy pressured Ukraine to drop an investigation into Antac. The column included a letter from George Kent, then the number 2 in the embassy, to the Ukrainian prosecutor's office that said the U.S. was confident its money was being well spent on anti-corruption activities in Ukraine and that a probe into Antac based on its receipt of U.S. funding was misplaced. At the time Kent sent the letter, Yovanovitch wasn't yet the ambassador. Kent, in his testimony in the impeachment hearings, said that the effort by the former Ukrainian prosecutor general Yuri Lutsenko, one of Giuliani's key witnesses, to investigate Antac was completely without merit. $7.5 billion in laundered Ukrainian funds. Since his investigative trip to Ukraine and Eastern Europe this month, Giuliani has been teasing a revelation he says is coming about another scheme, this one worth $7.5 billion. It involves a claim that former Ukrainian President Viktor Yanukovych, who plundered the country's assets before being ousted, had laundered $7.5 billion through an elaborate conspiracy involving Franklin Templeton, a U.S. investment firm, which purchased Ukrainian bonds nearing that amount starting a decade ago. They were later sold.